Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we are chatting about Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. And admissions first, I have to admit this is the first book I've ever read by the great Maggie O'Farrell. Huge apologies, you'd think I almost wasn't worthy to be doing book vlogging if I've only just read a book by Maggie O'Farrell. So many books out there, so many great books. And oh my goodness, Hamnet really is a great book. Now, the reason why I really wanted to vlog about this is because I want to encourage as many people as I can to read it. But as much as the eye-grabbing Hamnet, it's a book about Shakespeare, it's a book about his play Hamlet, might sort of grab the headlines, it will also put off a number of readers because it's like, oh, don't really want to read that, not really my cup of tea. This isn't a book about Hamlet, and it frankly isn't a book about Shakespeare. What it is an act. It's a political act, this book, in it just by its very existence. Maggie O'Farrell has taken Shakespeare's family, often a footnote in the life and times of this great writer, the greatest English language writer of all time, etc., blah, blah, blah. And they've put his family front and centre and put Shakespeare in the periphery. And by doing so, Maggie O'Farrell has put Shakespeare's wife, who she calls here Agnes, front and centre. This is a book about a woman with an absent husband who is off in London making plays while she's in Stratford-upon-Avon raising a set of twins and battling the arrival of the bubonic plague. This is a story about family. It's a story about responsibility. It's a story about overcoming grief, and it's a story about othering. There is something incredibly deep in Irish culture about being able to talk about family, history, legacy. It's something that seems to come so easy to Irish writers, and Maggie O'Farrell is no exception. She has put us in a place of historic fiction, and she has taken a headline grab of Shakespeare, but actually made it about women. Women, of course, marginalised, irrelevant, footnotes in history unless you happen to be the queen. Hamnet. So what is Hamnet? So Hamnet was the name of Shakespeare's son, who died when he was 11. And 4 years later, Shakespeare's most famous play Hamlet was put on for the first time. That is not a coincidence in the eyes of Maggie O'Farrell. And she has taken it upon herself for a fictional reimagining of what prompted Hamlet, and further back from that, what was it like to be Shakespeare's wife, away from your husband, bringing up 2 kids, one was which was to die from the bubonic plague, and then for your husband, your absent husband, to go and write a play about a son for whom you are still grieving. It is a knotty, brilliant book. Hamlet is phenomenal. So what we have, the central character is actually Agnes. Agnes is a little bit older than William Shakespeare when they first meet in Stratford-upon-Avon. William is an 18-year-old, 19-year-old Latin tutor with an abusive father. He is a brilliant talent, but his writing talents mean nothing to his family, who desperately need him to find a trade and earn some money. In Agnes, he finds something of a companion, something of a like-minded friend. Agnes is herself somewhat marginalised by the community in Stratford. She is a gifted herbalist, what you'd perhaps consider a witch. The women shun her in the streets, but they come to her late at night when they are unwell or with child, desperately trying to find a solution to their difficult situations. And Agnes helps them, but she is in the shadows. She is someone that people are a little bit afraid of. William marries Agnes, much against the wishes of his family, and she supports him in his decision to go to London. This book to go and write and make his riches and fulfill his destiny. Agnes's destiny is in Stratford-upon-Avon, and this is where the book remains. She has a set of twins, Judith and Hamnet, and this book is set in the years as the bubonic plague starts to arrive on the shores of the UK and its impact on the community in Stratford-upon-Avon. This is cleverly written. because yes, it's a book about family, but Maggie is clearly a sharp enough writer to know when to bring in the little shards of Shakespeare here and there. There's a wonderful reference in here to Judith and Hamnet, the young twins, about how they love playing tricks on those around them by dressing up as each other and pretending they were each other in different situations and confusing the adults, which of course is a trick that Shakespeare includes in his play around gender bending, gender swapping, dress changing, dressing like a man, dressing like a woman. Very Shakespearean, and that's a nice reference from Maggie O'Farrell. In fact, that kind of gender reference is key in this book, as like I said, she is bringing Agnes, Shakespeare's wife, front and centre. She is making the lot of women the subject of this novel, not the lot of a famous man. This isn't a book about a struggling writer. This is a book about a struggling woman making it in Tudor England, or just trying to get through the day in Tudor England. The bubonic plague obviously comes with the tragedy, and like I've already said, it is Hamnet who dies, and that is what gives Shakespeare his path in Maggie's eyes to write Hamlet, which is of course a play about internal suffering, mental illness, grief, reckoning, anger, all those things that would come from losing someone you love at such a young age. It is the fact that I'm giving you the ending, by the way, is not the revelation. It's quite clearly what's going to happen here. What Maggie is examining is family, and she does it beautifully. This is an unexceptional family and a very exceptional family. Obviously there are famous people, and the son will come down into legend as the source of the greatest play ever. But this is an unextraordinary family in terms of Tudor England. This is a family where there are difficulties in marriage, where money is hard, where the women have to step up and do a lot of the work when their husbands are absent, or having to do trade in other towns. It is, it's stunning. Hamlet is fully deserving of all the 5 stars and the critical acclaim that it gets. And I really would encourage you to read it. I don't want people being put off by the fact that it's linked to Shakespeare. It could be Shakespearean, it could be written in Shakespearean language, which I know some people find inaccessible. This is a historic novel written in contemporary language. This is fully accessible and a very beautiful story about people on the margins of society who end up only through the fortuitousness of history as being some of its most famous. One thing I'd like to mention before I finish with the blog is about the ending, which I'm not going to really spoil for you, even though it's explained to you what's going to happen. I had a chat about this book with a friend of mine, and he said what he found most interesting about the book was the ending. And I was surprised about that, because it was just an interesting observation considering all the themes in the book. And he said what's interesting is sometimes when a writer has a really good idea, like a hook, sometimes the hook becomes the book and they don't know how to end it. They create a plot, they create a world, but have got such a good idea that they haven't really invested how to tie up all the loose ends. And I thought that was a really interesting observation, because what he felt and he said was this ending is perfect. The last 3 pages, last chapter, he said, was absolutely perfect, because you feared that Maggie O'Farrell had created something so unique, such an intriguing set of circumstances, half based on truth, half based on fiction. And what was she going to do with it? How was she going to wrap up this story of a famous family and an unfamous family? And it is done beautifully. This is a richly rewarding book. Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell.